Okay, good evening, everyone. Okay, this is the May 11th meeting of the Board of Sewer Commissioners. And I'd like to start the meeting off with a roll call.
Sandy Slavin.
Bernie Pigeon.
Bob Scanlon.
Pete Dunlop.
And Jim Gibberti.
Hey, you guys, remember to turn your mics on.
Apart. Okay, we've got some minute meetings for acceptance. And I'm gonna flip this to Sandy because she's been heavily involved in doing this,
Thank you.
straighten out.
I created 3/9/22 minutes. It was a workshop, but we took votes on it regarding increasing on hauler fees, so we needed to record that. So I sent the minutes out to everybody prior to this meeting. And I'm going to recommend that my version of those minutes be accepted and processed. So I am fine with that 3/9 minutes unless somebody else has a comment on them.
So is that a motion?
I will make a motion that we accept the Sandy Slavin's version of the 3/9 minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Abstain.
So I have, so I have 302.
Yes.
The agenda calls the 8/11/22 minutes, but they were approved on 4/13, so no action on those. 8/20 was a off-site meeting of which there was no quorum, so we never called a never called a meeting, but I recommended and entered a set of minutes that says that we had no quorum, but we had a discussion with the Swiss Beach Association. So there is a set of, quote, minutes for every agenda that's on file. So I make a motion that we accept the Sandy Slavin's version of the 8/20 minutes.
Whoa. Where are we, Sandy? Which one?
8/20, I sent it out in an email. It's not in your packet. The ones in the packets, I don't want you to accept the version that's in the packets. All that says is we did not have a quorum, that you and Jimmy were there,
Yeah.
and Guy, and you discussed with the
Right, okay.
residents. That's all that document says.
All right.
Okay,
So is that a motion?
I made the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain.
The 9:15 minutes, 22, were corrected, and I make a motion that we accept the 9:15/22 minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
The January 26, 2023 minutes are complete and accurate, and I make a motion we accept them.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain.
The 3/9 minutes are accurate and complete, and I make a motion we accept the 3/9/2023 minutes as presented.
You need a second? That's 3/9, you said?
Yes,
Second.
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
All right, and that's what I have. We are missing minutes from 3/23, 4/13, and 5/4, and I ask they be placed on the next agenda. Even if we don't have them, it keeps track of what is outstanding.
Sorry, what were those dates again, Sandy?
3/23,
Four what?
4/13,
13 and 5/4, right?
and 5/4. I am working on the 2/9/23 executive minutes, and we did call an open meeting, so I do need minutes from 2/9 before we went into executive sessions, and I will make that happen. I will work on that. because we opened the meeting and went into executive sessions, and I need a set of minutes to say we did that. So that's why we had a 2-9. So I need 2-9, 2-9 executive, 323, 413, and 5-4 added to the next agenda. And I believe that is as current as we are with minutes.
What about the other two that are in the packet?
I don't know where they are or why we have them. I have a note to look as to why I have them, because I don't have them as outstanding.
So you figure they're duplicates?
I don't know. This is the first I've seen them in the packet, so I don't know if I'd have to do some research to see if they've been approved at another meeting. I didn't have them recorded as outstanding, so.
We'll just ignore them, that's not a problem.
Okay, moving along, sewer business. I want to thank Commissioner Donna Bronk and Vice Chairman Malcolm White for their service in the past. I want to welcome 2 new members, Bernie Pigeon, he's the guy with the beard, Bob Scanlon. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy.
And now a discussion and vote on reorganization of the sewer commissioners. Who wants to lead that off?
So are you saying you're stepping down?
No, I'm not saying that, I'm just saying reorganization.
I make a motion with my head, not my heart, that Bernie Pigeon be appointed chair of the sewer commissioners. Is there anybody willing to second? If not, I'll withdraw my motion.
I'll second it.
Is there any other,
Any other discussion?
Bob,
No discussion from me.
okay by you?
Okay by me.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
aye?
Aye.
Abstain.
So the vote is 4-0-1, and Bernie is the new chair.
In the reorganization, I'll make a motion, nominate Jim Gilberti as vice chair.
I'll second that.
Who? I didn't hear.
Jim as vice chair. I think
Are
that
you up on that?
what he's been doing in the past is
Are
invaluable.
you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay with you, Jimmy?
Yep.
Your knowledge is invaluable to the committee, and if I'm able to do anything, it'll be, I hope, because of your support and your ongoing knowledge in
Your
keeping
name?
me along the straight and narrow.
Your name is who? Your who?
That's okay. We'll work on that later.
Don't be afraid to use the mic, it's expensive.
Please don't back up, is what he's saying. You have to move forward into the mic.
I'll fix my hearing aids so they're tuned into Bob. Thank you. On the motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's a vote. I also move that Sandy Slavin remain as clerk.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? It's a vote.
I abstain. I don't like voting for myself.
You shouldn't be modest. Okay, the next issue we have on the agenda, discussion and approval of the 2023 special town meeting article, see attached. That would be the Article 1 construction cost for the WPCF projects. It's the clarifier and headworks upgrades. And, oh, we're having a presentation. Wonderful, love them.
Another dog in the corner.
I will introduce myself and we'll sit and have a chat sometime at our convenience.
Look forward to it. Russ Kleekamp with GHD, Sarah Greenberg also with
Hello,
GHD.
Russ. Nice meeting you. Thank you. You want that rack of lights on?
It might be helpful. Let's see if you,
Sure.
Up in the back of the room.
Yeah, back of the room.
Alan's got it. He's got it.
It'll take him forever to walk that far back.
Jimmy, do you want to move your seat?
Nah,
You've seen this show before?
yeah, that's it. The same characters doing it.
It's the sequel, new release.
And we do have handouts of the presentation if it interests anybody to follow along, or,
Yes, please.
sorry.
We got this thing set up on the side. I don't have an eye, so I can't see it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is this a rerun?
Yep.
New and improved,
Absolutely.
rated PG, too.
Trying to, they're working for that Oscar.
All right. Thank you so much. As Russ introduced, I'm Sarah Greenberg with GHD, and we wanted to back up a bit to welcome the two new sewer commissioners and give sort of a history of where, not a long history, a quick journey of where we've been leading up to this next clarifier and headworks upgrade project per the article that's being voted on that's on the agenda here. So to provide a short journey, back in 2015, there were repeated wet weather events that brought high influent flows into the treatment facility. Those high flow events, all those rain events, were causing the existing lagoons that you can see here, which are holding lagoons intended to hold wastewater that's in excess of what can be processed in the plant. That's part of the plant's normal process. However, the extreme weather events we've been seeing since 2015 caused these to almost breach and overflow. And at that point in time, we pursued installation of equalization basins 4 and 5, which are off screen here, and that is to help prevent any overflows, which could have been bad, did not happen, but could have caused raw wastewater to overflow into the Agawam River. So that construction project result.
And if I can just note, during this really came to a head, it was around late 2017 when I got a phone call from Mr. Campina expressing concern about the height of the raw wastewater in equalization lagoons 1 and 2. Soon after that, we had a series of 3 nor'easters in March. And all the nor'easters themselves, when you look at the precipitation data from those 3 events, they were all were a little over 1 inch or so of rainfall. But those 3 caused overflows of the denitrification filters, and that lasted for several weeks. So basically, what it's saying is your plant is hemorrhaging. It's too much is coming in. We had an extremely wet season that year, and there was a lot of added I&I, which just complicated the problems. But that was really the driver to start looking into the mitigation measures so that we can move forward. And one of those measures was there was a grant-funded CZM assessment that funded the design of equalization basins 4 and 5. I think that was around $200,000. And then the construction contract was roughly $1.2 million, and Robert B. Auer built equalization basins 3 and 4, and they both have a 1.7 or a 2.7.
They're each about 1.7, I think.
They're each about 1.7 million gallons. Your existing basins 1 and 2 are roughly 1 million gallons each. So in essence, what we did is triple your equalization. So if these series of circumstances, i.e. high groundwater, rain events, things like that happen in the future, we are robust by more than a factor of 2. So we put this down. So now, if, I'm not going to speak too much on Sarah's presentation. I'll chime back in. She'll probably answer more. But that was just a little bit more of the background behind, and that was one of the big drivers behind the moratorium, too. I mean, we had a plant that was just, like I said, hemorrhaging. And at the time, we had several documents. One of them was the review of Woodland Cove. We had a lot of developments being proposed. And the obvious observation is that, well, if the plant is overflowing now, how are we going to do all this that we're talking about, right? We have to figure this out. Luckily, that was several years ago, and a lot of really good steps that Sarah mentioned have been implemented, and that led to GHD recommending the release of up to 50,000 gallons of flow for future development. Keep in mind, engineers are very conservative at nature, so when we say 50, there was likely probably we feel more than that, but because we want to be overly safe, that's a step in the right direction. So I will pause momentarily and let Sarah continue.
All right, great, thanks, Russ. And so as Russ mentioned, in the same 2018 storm events, there were similar events with the denitrification filters, which are near the end of the treatment process, right before it goes through ultraviolet disinfection. And those also were prone to being inundated more quickly in these wet weather events with more solids. And when one goes into backwash, now you only have two, and those were overwhelmed by it, and there were occasions where,
And what that means when Sarah says overwhelmed by solids, because we're going to come back to this, is that you have such a surge of flow coming into the plant with the I&I. The processes within the plant just don't have the time to do what they're supposed to do. The solids don't settle out. The whole key to this part of wastewater treatment process is to get those solids to settle down. And again, we just have very large flows coming in that are overwhelming the design capacity of the plant during these circumstances. So it's, that's what is, and please, if anybody doesn't understand when we say things like, just raise a hand, ask a question. We've been up there saying this for the last 20 years. We understand there's new folks to the board that don't have a PE after their name or things like that. So feel free to inquire more.
please do, yes, thank you. So in these events, the denitrification filters also would get into a negative sort of cycle where if one was out because it's backwashing, trying to clean out the solids, then the other two couldn't handle all that flow, and so they would just more quickly need to be backwashed. Now you're out of filtering out the solids at that later stage. And so this challenge was mitigated by the addition of this construction project that we're currently near the end of. We're in startup, we've reached substantial completion. The denitrification filter, as well as equalization basin upgrade project. So in addition to the filters, another tank, a concrete equalization basin. You can see that these are sort of lined with a plastic, if you will, and a concrete tank has been added adjacent to that, and that's holding our peak day events. So anything over what the plant can handle just in the daily peaks is being stored there, and it has a cover on it. So that's helping to mitigate any odors that were emanating from these open basins that were holding the peak daily flow. So and that's part of the same construction project that's in startup.
And I think since going back, I've been working with the town since, I believe, 2013, and odors have always been a hot topic. They're obvious. So with the installation, that was the other design element of that fifth equalization basin, was to make sure it's covered. And the idea is to bring all your raw wastewater in there and keep the cover on it. At the end of the day, it's still a wastewater treatment plant. There will always be odors. It's very hard to mask anything, but we try to keep them as contained on site as much as possible. So with all these projects we've done in the past and also moving forward, we try to help solve the other incidental problems going on at the plant. Even with the design of the two equalization basins 3 and 4, the intent was to do midstream equalization where you're equalizing with partially treated wastewater, so at least you don't have lagoons that are full of raw wastewater, which are the real odor causers. So while certain design solutions are meant for a certain problem, we always try to incorporate the other problems too into the plant, try to get a 2-for-1 deal, if you know what I mean. So.
Yeah, so these are all, we just wanted to provide a quick journey of the history. These just kind of illustrate some of the various projects that are ongoing towards keeping sort of the critical processes at the facility, keeping them running, not only to treat what is existing flows, but also so that it can be in a condition to be able to handle any additional capacity, right? We're not just looking for making what is existing better again, but also how can we make them account for any future flows, right? Increasing capacity towards this long-term goal of, how can we have growth in Wareham and allow more flows to come in?
Provisional expansion while we design. If we're going to need one tank for the immediate future, well, what about when the hopefully soon-to-be completed CWMP is done, which will outline future flows? We take all this into consideration so we don't duplicate design efforts or have to build something once and rip it out to put something else in. Just like when, they pave the road and the next day they're out there cutting a trench and it's something everybody says, well, why didn't they think of that before?
So, right, yes. I'm glad you mentioned the comprehensive wastewater management plan that is ongoing concurrently. I understand we're not here to speak specifically to that, but it kind of shows you that things are happening in parallel, not only addressing critical, infrastructure rehab, if you will, at the facility, but also how can we make that ready for future capacity expansion. So with that, I'll jump into the specifics of this project and what we're here to talk about. And so the next priority projects, if you will, after sort of the journey I walked you through, are twofold. So the headworks is the first part, the first portion of the facility. It's where you have a screen and a grit removal system, and what that does is all your wastewater that comes in from the collection system, of course, has your non-flushable wipes and has your toys and has your solids and, you know, other things. So the screen is removing all that big stuff. And then it follows, and then it continues through the grit removal, which is letting, you know, your sands, your gritty substances, fall out of the wastewater, if you will, to be removed, so that what's entering the plant to be processed shouldn't have rags anymore, shouldn't have toys anymore, should be much less grit. So unfortunately, just due to, you know, equipment being past its useful life, the headworks building, and this is showing 2 pieces of equipment in it, is broken, corroded. So the screen is no longer properly removing rags, so they're ending up downstream, causing other problems with other pieces, whether it's pumps or equipment in the clarifiers of clogging it up, for example. And the grit system is also no longer as functional, doing what it needs to be doing. Again, these things have sort of moved past their useful life and then, you know, made worse by corrosion. And so that's the first piece. And the second piece of this is the clarifier upgrade. So the secondary clarifiers are further downstream. They're at the end of what we call the secondary treatment process. So after sort of the bugs have done their thing in the aeration basins, now we're moving to these circular clarifiers to allow the solids, the sludge, to settle out. And that sludge gets removed and pumped off-site, thickened, then pumped off-site, pumped to a tanker truck that hauls it off-site, rather. And so then what you have left is a clearer substance. It's now been, you know, shouldn't have rag, shouldn't have grit, has been treated through the aeration basin, and now shouldn't have the solids in it. But unfortunately, so these existing clarifiers, their design, when they were designed at the time, design standards now require a minimum depth to do a proper settling, and these are 10-foot depth clarifiers, and they should be a minimum of 12 feet. So that exacerbates the challenge and the problem, as well as due to the facilities that do exist that take sludge to incinerate, to take it away from wastewater facilities. There are minimal in the region, in the New England Northeast region, and the ones that are currently contracted with have had, you know, their own problems that their facilities have had to shut down. This leads to a lack of being able to haul sufficient sludge off-site. So if you're not able to take it off-site, you're not able to thicken it, you can imagine it backs up in the system, and you can see that sludge can just build up, and you should have a minimal, what we call a 1 to 2 foot sludge blanket, and it just has backed up at times to be double, triple that. So that causes problems for the whole system. And of course, if you're not taking your solids out, where is it going to go? It's going to go down to the next stage where it shouldn't be going. It should be removed at that stage. And in addition, this figure or photo really illustrates a broken mechanism, and you can see that the sludge and solids and scum, everything has settled to the top. So just for illustration purposes, we just wanted to show, you know, on the left is what a clarifier should look like if it's settling out, right? The sludge is at the bottom, and you should see a fairly clear wastewater on top. And of course, with the broken mechanism and some of the other challenges with the sludge hauling that I mentioned, you can see on the right-hand side, it's not functioning as well. So that, we just wanted to give you a background of.
And I would just add that why ultimately all these things are critical is that they all impact the quality of the effluent that's discharged from the plant, and that's the real driver. If you don't meet your nitrogen and your other effluent limits, you're in violation of your discharge. And the more malfunctions with each one of the many processes in wastewater treatment, it just adds more complexities to keep your effluent underneath these standards. So, the discharge has been doing really good with the nitrogen limits, but a lot of these problems are revealing to be very challenging. to deal with, and we're at a very kind of critical time right now.
So yeah, while the design funds were appropriated at the fall town meeting, what we're going for in special town meeting coming up is for the appropriation of the construction funds for this project. So this project would be construction of a new headworks building and additional clarifiers to be able to handle the existing flows with the concept of being able to handle an expansion, so that we're not just replacing existing. And so here's the costs, and and you can see we use the term order of magnitude cost for this project, for the headworks facility, the additional secondary clarifier, and the facilities that are needed to be able to support those secondary clarifiers, pumping and such. And so we just use term order of magnitude cost to indicate a budgetary number that was based on an evaluation and is the first step in establishing a construction cost, an estimate of construction. So now that the design has started, and as we are moving into conceptual, and middle and final design, then those costs get fine-tuned. But of course, by the June town meeting is still at the stage of, between conceptual and, 60% design stage. Just wanted to frame the order of magnitude costs, and you'll note that the vote for appropriation has that budgetary cost in it. And this is a large number, right? This isn't an insignificant number. And so we just wanted to sort of highlight and remind us all of sort of why some of these costs are so high. Unfortunately, in between 2020 and 2022, of course, as we all know, with the pandemic, supply chain issues, et cetera, we had significant material increases. You can see in this chart here that whether it was, cement or steel materials, you have 25 or 83% increase in costs. Fuel is 50 to 93%. And this comes from sort of the Mass Department of Transportation or the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. So these are real increases in costs, which have to be taken into account when we put together these budgetary costs. And so here's some good real world examples of two projects that you can see the pre-bid estimate, and then you can see what the low bid that came in as. For example, the whole treatment plant improvements, it was almost double. So you marry the material cost increase with a bidding climate that is now not only recognizing that, but there's uncertainty. And so we just wanted to show some of these examples.
What was the size of Mashpee's plant for the GPD? Do you know?
For the first, I don't know off the top of my head, yeah.
But I think one of the considerations is that if we know we need to do infrastructure projects and we're certain it's not on our side because of inflation. You can see over the last 3 years, in some of these projects, costs have, when you look at everything, have gone close to 200%. It was more than any engineer could have ever imagined at the onslaught of the pandemic. Although supply chains, things have somewhat normalized, we can get products. There's a surplus of projects out there now as well, too. So it's the moral of the story is if you really know, and that's, after all the T's have been crossed and the I's have been dotted, if you know you need to do something, it's in your best interest to act sooner than later.
And I think what, you're getting at with, Mashpee was a brand-new facility bid for cost for a new facility, and you can see just with, whole treatment plant is obviously, I think, a little larger, but just for improvements at the facility, you can just sort of see that order of magnitude cost differential. And so the reason we are still wanting to proceed and recommending proceeding with this project now is because of the unique sort of principal forgiveness and loan opportunities that we do have before us. The State Revolving Fund, the SRF loan program, is a program that's always funded these projects at very low interest, 0 to 2%. And of course, the goal is always to 0%, and that's when everything is nutrient related. And I have a slide next where I'll touch on that a bit more. But the unique thing about right now is we have this infrastructure bill that's giving us, for Wareham specifically, is a tier 3 community, as we have tiers in Massachusetts based on income, and so since Wareham is a tier 3, 9.9% of the principal forgiveness, and this infrastructure bill is adding additional on top of that. So while we're not sure of the exact percentage right now, it's going to be some additional percentage on top of this 10% on principal forgiveness of the loan. And so 0% is always the goal for a loan, and there are some, apologies, it is hard to read, but there are these 5 criterias in order to get 0% interest, and so, and one of them is having a flow-neutral bylaw, and the comprehensive wastewater management plan sort of works in tandem, sort of works through all these items, so that if the town can pursue or wants to pursue these criteria, that helps guide towards a 0% interest. So while it's not, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, were you going to go through each one real quick, or?
No, go, yeah, we can go through them, yeah.
Well, Yeah, and just what a few of these are.
Sure.
So that the 5 criteria for the 0% interest is, one, the project has to sustain nutrient removal. So, a large project like a treatment facility upgrade, that's obviously what it's for. So that's a fairly easy criteria. You can't be under an administrative consent order. That's just kind of a checkbox, which you're not, so that's good. You do have to have a comprehensive wastewater management plan that is approved by Department of Environmental Protection, and that would also require the Select Board's approval as well before it gets there. So, again, GHD is currently working on that comprehensive wastewater management plan. Within, how many months do we expect to, rough timeline, Mark? Definitely within a year, if not 6 months sooner.
Yeah, end of this year.
This year.
Yeah.
So this is a big step. This plan will, a draft will be released, of course, to the Board of Sewer Commissioners first for your thorough review. Comments will be addressed, then the draft works its way up the hierarchy. So that's a big one.
The process of this comprehensive wastewater management plan includes meetings with stakeholders in the town.
Right.
So the first time you're going to see the document isn't going to be when the draft is released. You're part of the process as we go through finalizing the plan.
And it's,
I've seen the legislation that requires it.
and
Good,
we're
good.
often asked, why do these things take so long? And while agreed, these things do take a long time. If you try to accelerate a comprehensive wastewater management plan, typically what happens is you sacrifice on the public involvement, right? And that's critical for these projects. So we have to make sure that we've had this advertised posted, we've reached out, we educated. I mean, if you just look at your neighboring towns on what their plans and the costs are, your costs will be, whatever the selective alternatives are moving forward. These are large numbers is the point we're getting at. And we need to make sure that everybody is hopefully as educated as possible so they understand the position that we're in. Nobody wants to spend tens of millions of dollars on this, but we have certain things that we need to do if the town is going to live, thrive, and survive. So again, you're not going to be just given a final report one day that's this thick and say, here you go, read it overnight. There'll be a lot of public input on this process.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah,
Did we miss, I'm sorry, did we miss the last two? Let's just go back real quick. I'll be quick.
oh, yep, sorry.
So the project has to be consistent with the regional water resources management plans, which again, it likely will be. That's a fairly easy checkbox to tick off.
Sorry, do we have a regional water resource management plan? Sorry. Do we have a regional water resource management plan?
Does the town of Wareham? No, the town of Wareham, no. But that term is used, for example, if there's TMDLs, things like that. Does it? And that term is used
Okay,
generally.
so there would be, we would check that box off.
Yeah, as we would verify that
Okay.
if there's no existing.
So right now, we can't check number 3 off,
Correct.
but we can check number 4 off. Okay,
I'm not going to give a definitive, but we will get back to you very soon. How about that? Mark, yeah.
Requires that. 3.
Mark Drainville with GHD. The number 4 would get done as part of the CWMP, so that's evaluated as part of the comprehensive plan.
okay. So right now, we don't have a number 3 or 4 available for our checkoff. So let's go number 5.
Yeah, is that the flow neutral, Mark, the number 5?
Yeah.
I'll have you speak to that one. And
Oh,
that's
yeah.
another one that you do not have checked off.
You don't have 5 checked off yet. Number 5 is what's referred to as a flow-neutral bylaw. What the state asks is that if you want to pursue 0% financing, they ask that you manage your town flows to those that are laid out in the comprehensive plan. It's so that you don't have uncontrolled growth, if that makes sense. So the plan comes up with a total amount of wastewater flow that needs to be managed in the town, and then these flow neutral bylaws would have the town manage to those flows. So it's, the whole reason for the 0% financing is to allow smaller towns the ability to get nitrogen removal assistance, if you will, okay? And to not be providing that kind of assistance to like cities that are growing and growing and growing. Does that make sense?
Who controls or measures the flows?
Your mic, you gotta get into your mic.
Sorry,
Yeah.
who controls or develops the flow capacity that you're measuring?
So, so the comprehensive plan comes up with a total amount of wastewater flow, and then the town would keep track of where you
What was
stand.
that total flow, though, I think is what you're asking,
Who
Mr.
did-
Like,
what-
how does that flow get developed?
Yes.
It's a very collaborative effort with the
Yeah.
town. We have to understand what the town's intentions are for planning, growth, zoning. We have to look at the environmental factors. It's not a consultant saying you get 3 million and that's it, and you don't get to ask questions. It is a very iterative process with the town.
So we actually are a couple weeks away from having another group meeting. We've had a group meeting within the town that involves, finance, planning, different, Alan was at the last one, just different members within the town to, see the progress. And at the next meeting, we're going to lay out all the different flows that we've come up with from talking to the planning department, looking at the environmental needs within the town, coming up with growth projections from population. So we'll lay out all the different factors that we've laid out from our experience in working in other towns.
I look forward to your report.
All right, good. Thank you. So within the realm of the order of magnitude $36 million, this table illustrates the why now argument, if you will. You can see that, let's just talk 0% financing for right now, but with 0% interest, the cost of the loan with the principal forgiveness that will be given to a tier 3 community such as Wareham, now the cost of that project is you're taking off $4 million of that loan. Then there's additional principal forgiveness through the infrastructure bill. We haven't included a number here because we don't know exactly what it is, but that will be another amount that's forgiven from the principal amount. And then, of course, there are intermunicipal agreements between Wareham and the town of Bourne. So I believe they have 17.7% responsibility for, if you will. So that shows that, what does that loan equal in terms of money spent, right? So this is a really, I think a really telling piece of why now with all this principal forgiveness. But we do want to iterate. With the sewer department have talked about, the goal is to fit this project cost within the existing budget and because you can see here from this proposed schedule, I'll go back to the beginning, but the loan debt repayment doesn't begin until 2027. So we can fit the project within what's happening existing for the operating budget. And the proposed schedule here is highlighted, just showing that in order to get this 0% interest or 2%, 0 to 2%, some range of SRF funding with this not 10% principal forgiveness, with some additional principal forgiveness because of this infrastructure bill, we have to stay in this funding cycle that's dictated by the state revolving fund program. And so it requires that the funds be appropriated for the construction by June 30th, 2023, which is where we enter into why there's a June special town meeting to vote on the appropriations for this. So you can see the check mark next to the application, if you will, was submitted for this project to the state. They've listed us on their intended use plan, intending to give the town of Wareham a loan for $36 million, and they've listed that in the final intended use plan. And and design funds were approved in the fall. Design is now beginning so that we can fine-tune the construction cost estimate to get a more accurate number. And then construction appropriation is this critical yellow highlighted. piece that needs to have the construction funds appropriated so that the package can be submitted to the state for the loan in October, so that the DEP can provide that authorization for the project to go out to bid, and that you can see the notice proceed to the contract would be in June of next year. So that's that schedule, that cycle that needs to be maintained in order to proceed with that loan. And so I don't want to, that we have this if we do nothing, slide in. I think we've all talked about the potential cost of no action.
I think this is a repeat slide from a past movie showing, Commissioner Dunlop. So if this is one thing that we have seen before, so Sarah's right. We don't want to dwell on the, we all know what happens if
And
we
we want-
don't move forward.
And we want to focus on the positive of all of the additional.
And I think the positive is that the treatment facility has implemented over the last 5 years a number of quality projects to help the town, achieve its economic goals. So.
And so our next steps are to present we have presented this project as we've been going for design funds, but we need to, continue to remind and present about the details of the project, and the next is to go to the select board. And then we plan to have 2 informational sessions. It'll be open to the public. You saw at the very first slide, we had any questions, email us, and that's a real true GHD email address. So we're going to invite the public to email us with any questions you have. This presentation will go up on the town website. Email us with any questions you have so that everybody feels feels their questions are being answered and at this informational session. But we, of course, came here first and want to open it up, I think, to questions.
What we try to do at these informational sessions, if we do get emails, inquiries ahead of time, when we work with other towns on CWMPs, to just ask any questions, send it all. And it's funny, and this is, you see this when you go from, towns, you get some repeat patterns, right? So we are going to get, potentially a lot of questions, but they generally fall into categories, right? Like a lot of the questions revolve around the same topic. Do I have to pay anything for this, or what does it cost me, or these sort of things. So the questions we get back kind of fall into general categories. We'll answer those, but then we do try to take the time to answer every question individually. Education is one of the best components we have in getting the public acceptance on these projects. And it's, you might have a naysayer here or there, but if you stick to the facts, though, and just these are the facts. Like, you can't, it is what it is. It's not good news, bad news. This is the current state of the union, and we want to keep going with it. So.
Will these be Zoom meetings?
No, they will be in person.
Where?
We have not yet gotten a room, so we've requested that of.
Because one of them's on a Saturday and Town Hall is closed.
Yep. So we're going to see if there's a room.
And the
that
other
can be
one's
made
on
available.
okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
A lot of times in the other towns, the residents have asked for weekend meetings because just during the week is too much at night, so we try to do a dual option.
Sure, yeah, we want to do one weekend and one evening after hours option so that people felt they had an opportunity to stop by.
I think under the circumstances, we'll figure it out. Any further discussion, any questions? Peter?
I see you have a 10% construction contingency, but every one of those, the 2 towns that you pointed out are well above 10% in what they went over. How safe are we at $36 million?
So that, those projects, the point of that slide was to show that the cost estimate was developed at a time where things were still in flux. And so while we can never be certain on anything, we've taken sort of the experiences of during that time when costs were increasing to make sure we're accounting for the pandemic, if you will, inflation piece.
A lot of those inflated costs there, they were results from the post-pandemic supply chain issues. We've all heard it before, the factors that arose to it. So those project bids were the results of that. So now that we know that there was that volatility in the market for that time frame, we've worked that factor into our estimates. So normally an engineer does their estimates. We go to recently bid projects of similar things like that, work with construction estimators. We have a surplus of goods, but now we have to add in a factor for that sort of volatility. But that is included in what we call that order of magnitude cost. And we get it. The first number we say, 36 million, that number can only go down, right? Because if we come back and say, oh, sorry, we need 40 million, doesn't look good. We get it. But we don't have all these final things, so we really can't give that sharpened crisp number yet, so we just have to start somewhere. And again, we have a whole bunch of things we look at for that starting number. So it is our intent that it's going to be within that 36 million.
So initially, you've, in a sense, written in your inflationary costs.
Yes.
And then contingency on top of that.
Yeah, and it is state, Mass DEP does require a 10% contingency as part of the
Yes.
SRF program, so. So to answer Commissioner Dunlop's question is, how safe are we? We feel that we are safe. That's the number we're presenting with confidence.
Okay. Now, I have a question for the board. Do we have to get Bourne to go along with this, since
I had
half of
asked,
the costs are gonna go to them?
that went through my mind also. There's someone over there shaking his head no. Why would that be, Jimmy?
We have to get them to go along with it. They're responsible for capital improvements to the plant,
So whatever we
2017.
ascertain it to be, they have a
However-
certain percentage period.
However, we should be informing Bourne of what's coming down the street and what's involved and why. Now, I don't believe we've done that yet, but Bourne should be aware of what we're doing, so that they can crank in their own budgetary concerns.
I think we, in one of these meetings, then we have to deliberately invite them.
I'll go there, either or.
Let them come to us. We got the bigger piece of the bone.
Yeah, we got a nice, that'd be a nice road trip. A nice food shop there.
Jimmy, they can't hear you.
No, that's probably better.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, Sandy?
Who's going to run these 2 minutes, these two meetings, and how are we going to promote it to the general public?
So GHD plans to be in attendance. I believe Mr. Campina will also be in attendance, and so we'll hope, we'll be there, we'll be ready with a presentation, ready with any questions that'll have come in that are answered. Could you repeat your second question? I've already forgotten.
How
I
do we
apologize.
promote it?
How do we promote? Thank you. So we want to not upload this presentation, for example, to the town website. We'd like to get a who, what, when, informational flyer, a short snippet up on the town website, and then also through the, I apologize, I forget the name of the newsletter, the digital newsletter that goes out. Wareham Weekly, thank you. And so those are the mechanisms by which we, I think we feel it's been the most, might be the most helpful.
So the big
we're
thing
open
we
to-
have
yeah.
is, we don't know where it's going to be held.
Yes, I have reached out to the town, and so I'm just waiting to get a room, so,
Indeed, and you don't have much time.
yep.
Your window
And we can
to
always read,
like advertising the Wareham Week comes out on a Thursday
Mm-hmm.
as a paper, and that goes like crazy. But of course, they're online, but not everybody's online.
Right.
And I presume that we as commissioners are invited also. You left us off the list.
Yes, you are invited, of course, of course. Apologies.
If that's the case, we need to post a meeting.
and if for
Okay.
some reason the timeframe does get too condensed, of course, we will have follow-up meetings, of
yep.
course. It's not like we told you for 2 meetings and that's it. We'll have as many public meetings as we need. We try to make that clear with every town, that some towns, it's just, it just takes more involvement, and that's the bottom line.
And this public meeting is focusing on this article for 36 million.
Yep, this project solely, that's it,
So
this article.
we have to be clear to the public that we will not be talking about other projects that are in the works.
Yeah, this isn't a
Yes.
Because
pre-town meeting.
this is not a swift speech discussion. This
No.
is just for the 36 million.
Agreed, correct, yeah.
Confined within the fence line of the treatment facility, all this work is
Yes, all this
located.
work is at the treatment.
At the plant, we don't expect to have any traffic delays, road closures, anything like that. There's no collection system work. It's all within the confines of the treatment facility.
If I was to look at that screen, can you give me a hint as to where the new headworks would go and where the new clarifier would go?
Oh, yeah, I was going to
Yeah,
do
okay,
this digital tool. Sorry, I'm all about the digital tools. So the Headworks area is not yet, the location is not yet determined, but there is space here and then off-screen to the left, so maybe.
And on the other side of all the wood chip piles.
Yeah, so, right, you see the 4 biofilters here? Apologies. You see the 4 biofilters here? These are wood chips, to your point, wood chip biofilters. And there is currently an equalization basin here, and there is space along this strip of land here. There's some space here, trying to keep us close to where the inflow pipes come in. So the location is to be determined, that general area. Secondary clarifier, there's a space here across from the denitrification filters, just across from the existing secondary clarifiers.
But isn't that where we have our 2 new basins?
No, the 2 new basins actually are just off-screen.
off-screen?
We'll bring an updated aerial photo next time.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
we'll update the
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, bring a drone up, because will require any significant relocation of the inflow to go to the headwater,
Sorry, can you ask again, please?
will it require any significant relocation of the inflow?
The inflow piping to the plant? We'll try to minimize it as much as possible. It will likely require some, because again, if it's a new
You
headworks
relocate it,
building.
right.
But we always try to minimize, the addition of ancillary piping and things like that.
Yeah, because you have to maintain a continual operation
Correct. You have
before you
to
put it
build a
on.
new one next to it and then do your transfer at a very critical time. Yes, it's a orchestrated chaos.
I better load it.
So on
first.
Google Earth actually shows an updated photo.
If I could add something while you're pulling that up, the location of the new clarifiers, I want to say it's been known for a number of years. We've been doing some conceptual planning for a number of years, and so the new basins that were put in.
Is that why they were pulled away?
Yeah,
Okay.
they were put strategically in a position where clarifiers could then be installed later, so.
Right.
Peter?
Guy, what was the results of those headworks that was supposed to be self-contained?
The Pista Works. I was going to talk about it in my report. We went out there, we saw them, they're outside, I got pictures of it. I
Yeah.
was going to discuss it in my report, but to talk to it now, they are incorporating it, we're looking at it, we're looking at the options. Out in the area we went to, they keep these things outside
If we
without
were to go
buildings.
that route, we wouldn't be going this route.
Well, we'd probably do a combination of something, eliminate, maybe make the building smaller. I'm not exactly sure, but we are incorporating it.
I think.
We
I
are
think
talking
I'd
about
like
it.
to hear his report on that.
And so that's-
before we decide on this.
Of course. I think it'd be valuable, too.
Just if I can give a real quick update with a more up-to-date picture. So here's your existing headworks facility, that's one of the ones we're talking about. This is, you can see the actual construction of your fifth equalization basin.
They can't
Speak
hear
up.
you.
Oh, yeah, oh, sure.
Just yell.
Underneath. Oh. Thank you. So this is the headworks facility right here that, we've been talking about that. The fifth equalization basin or covered basin, this is one of the newer projects there. These were equalization basins 1 and 2. These are, when I talked about the events in 2017 and 2018, these were getting very high. Your 3 clarifiers, this is your denitrification filters, and you can see the Google Earth photo even shows the excavation where the 3 ones are going to be going in. And then these are your equalization basins 3 and 4. Sarah, is a real quick historic photo. Can you go to that quickly just to see the, or am I dragging this too long? Land the plane?
Keep in mind that when you go to the town meeting, you got 5 minutes.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. We don't have to go back, don't worry about that. But these are your equalization basins 4 and 5 that were put in. So,
Mr. Chairman, if you will, Sarah can speak to the Pista. She was with us, so she can speak to it also. So if you want to hear it, then she can speak to the Pista Works.
Yes,
I'll allow the discussion, but I just want to clarify, Peter, we're only voting on the money, the 36 million. What is actually going to be purchased with it, we haven't decided yet, whether it be the version that Guy has observed or something else they may recommend. So the vote will actually be on appropriating the 36 million, not actually what's going to buy, it's what they're going to buy.
It will be limited, that vote is
Either
for,
way, we're still looking for the 36 million.
Yes,
and the article is for headworks and clarifiers, nothing else.
right. So however you...
So regardless of where the headworks come from, if the article passes, we've got the money.
Correct.
yeah.
Now, does that mean we've signed a contract?
I hearken back to the last question, the last meeting, as you asked. As written, as it's in law, Derek
That
signs
explanation
everything.
that Derek gave belongs at the headworks.
Where the hand cursor is located is the location of the new proposed clarifiers at this design stage.
One or two.
So we're looking at both options, and it comes down to what can fit in the budget to be.
Okay.
Well, we're, like we've talked about already, there are merits to having two from a design standpoint, and if it doesn't fit into the budget and it needs to be made work with one, that can be a possibility as well.
So it's possible we could close down one of the three. The three we have could be obsoleted.
We are actually looking at you're correct, we're looking at options, though, to not make it a wasted tank that exists there, and trying to make reuse of it with minimal cosmetic improvements as to not
Okay.
expend too many funds, but as
10
part of
feet-
this project.
10 feet versus 12 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But remember, if one of the problems with the plan too is redundancy, you have an aeration, anoxic tanks, you don't have any secondary tanks, so
Yep.
how do you clean them, right? You
I was
can't.
about to say, there's
Yeah.
absolutely no redundancy in
Right,
the
so
system.
think in mind, if there's a way that hey, wait a second, before we get rid of these three clarifiers, you have a giant concrete structure on the
Yeah.
ground. At the end of the day, a tank is a tank. Is there a way to make that work
Yeah.
for redundancy? That's
Thank
definitely
you.
something we're
Yes.
gonna look at.
Yep.
Yes,
Who's paying this back? The
That's an issue
enterprise
like-
fund or the town?
Peter, it's a very good question. Where is the money coming from? Are we picking it up at our rates to do the debt service?
The microphone.
I'll have to remember that.
Well, bring it closer to you.
I do. Normally in my room, we have it there, and there's a directional mic, and we be anywhere in the room. That was always going through the back of my mind, where's the money coming from? And we may approve it, but I don't know when we're going to pay for it, how we're going to pay for it. 36 million, irrespective of whatever discounts we get, is still an awful lot of money.
Well, I don't think we could pay for it with the enterprise fund. I mean, how could we possibly raise the
I
rates?
don't think we can,
that
or we'd
much?
kill the ratepayers for sure.
Well,
And this is only the beginning of what we need to do.
Believe me, I totally know that.
Yeah. I read the report from 2015, and you guys paint a very dreary report, especially when you add time into it. But yes, I agree, Peter. I don't know where the money's coming either.
Because currently, our capital budget, we're not putting anything new in. It tends to be used only for interest and principal under the existing
Yeah.
capital budget. So we have no room for this interest and principal that's going to start in '27. We have no room in our capital budget, because it's interest and principal we're paying on, for any improvements like a generator or something. But, so yeah, financing is a big component of this.
Well, have you got an idea what it's going to cost a year to pay it back? I think you mentioned one time 2.2 million.
Maybe before the interest rates went up? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean,
Well, Biden may not be president then, so it won't.
I think
Could I offer?
Monday I will
Please.
be in having a conversation with John Foster and Derek.
Yeah.
So we'll know when Tuesday comes along.
Well, I think we should know before we have the public meetings. We should have all the answers,
Yeah.
as opposed to the last time we had a public meeting.
Yeah.
But these-
You be sure to get anything I have when I get it.
these articles are due Monday.
Yes. The warrant closes Tuesday.
Yes, so these articles must be submitted to the selectmen by Monday.
Mr. Chairman, one of the things that I talked with John and Derek, we're dropping debt rapidly. So we estimated before the payments are due, we'll drop about $1.6 million in debt.
Yes.
That would money we could use to continue. So that's just a consideration. I want to bring that to everybody's attention. What we actually do, you guys will make that final decision. There's a lot of discussion to have before 2027. But that's just one way we looked at it when we did the numbers, is debt is dropping off rapidly. You let it drop off and you just bring it back up, and so you stay consistent with your debt. And betterment debt's dropping off real fast. A couple of years will be gone. And non-better debt's dropping also. And the number we used in Tuesday's meeting was $1.6 million would have dropped, 1.4 to 1.6 would have dropped off by the time of 2027 comes along. So that's just, I'll just throw that out there.
Indeed, but irrespective of how much it drops off, it's on a competitive basis.
Absolutely.
That's how.
This-
And yes, I'm thinking in terms of a spreadsheet, let's say, moving forward, so we're borrowing for something, and then when that's getting ready to drop off, we borrow for something else. So we're going to maintain a high level of indebtedness as in the next 10 to 20 years, easily. We're dealing with a system that was upgraded in 2005, And in 2015, everything was rated as being, running towards their life expectancy, every part of the system. And that was in 2015, and we're just getting around to replacing some of those units. So they are definitely on the criticality list or borderline. And Murphy's Law, you just don't know what it's going to do. Got any questions, Bob?
Not at this time.
Speak to your mic.
Oh, sorry, no, not at this time, thanks.
Jimmy?
Oh, I think I've heard this song before.
Yes, I can imagine.
Nothing more.
Very good. Anything else you'd like to add?
Do you have anything? No, I was just going to comment on what Guy just said.
But, okay. I'll try and get anything you need by Monday, because I want to know, too, where it's going to come from. But on the discussion we had regarding it, it is necessary for us to make a decision tonight, because we have to pass it on Monday and deliver it to the selectman's office. So I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve and submit the Article 1 for the construction cost of the WPCF project's clarifier and headworks upgrades for a total cost of $36 million.
I'll second it.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? I understand, Peter, your quandary.
Well, I don't know how we can say we're going to borrow $36 million when we have no idea who's going to pay it back. And I also understand that we have to get it ready for town meeting.
Yeah. We're between a rock and a hard place, and it's uncomfortable.
Hey, by 2027, I'm not going to be worrying about it. I'll be using diapers. But
Speak for yourself. I know your quandary. I feel your pain.
Well,
And I hope we
well,
don't...
let's see what your vote is then.
Believe it or not, I'm between a rock and a hard place, and I'm not a sewer user, but there's a lot of people out there depending on a flush. And we don't have choices. The system,
But if those people don't come, dig in their pockets, we're still in the hard place.
indeed, and no rationale to say that we are at lowest rates as it is, et cetera, would make it any more palatable to the ratepayer. But that's our only source. I'm not sure we could go townwide. When I was on the finance committee, we had a lengthy discussion regarding that issue. The whole town benefits from what we're doing in the sewer commission and with that plant. Why shouldn't the whole town pay for it? They benefit. But that is just a discussion. That isn't to suggest that's what can happen. I have no idea. Any other discussion?
We just better be available, have an answer available for those two public meetings.
Indeed. On the motion,
I
Or
think
is it vote?
you've only had 2 votes.
I haven't counted them yet.
Okay.
We have to take a vote. We can't postpone it. Because Monday it has to go in, so we don't have a choice.
Aye.
Aye.
Ask the clerk call the roll.
Oh,
It's money.
oh, never done it before. Okay. Jimmy,
Yes.
Peter,
I'll abstain.
Bob?
I'll say yes. Before the meeting, I rewatched the meeting of June 23rd of last year, which was kind of funny because tonight was pretty much a word-for-word repeat of last year. Yeah, I vote yes. I've seen the condition of the plant, and it definitely needs work. I don't know about the financing, but we're going to have to find out about that.
Bernie,
As chairman, I'll give my fellow members my word. I will not let something like this happen again if it's within my control. And I will say yes.
the vote is 401. to submit this to selectmen for placement on the special town meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And on item 9, discussion on the vote on members authorized.
No, we need to go to Article 2.
You're skipping?
No. It said discussion and approval of special town meeting articles, but they're really articles because we have included Article 2 and Article 3. Article 4 has its own location on the agenda, but we need to talk about Article 2 and Article 3.
You are correct. My apologies.
Article 2 is a article to rescind the Article 15 from 2022 that funded the $3 million for the replacement of the Swiss Beach sewer lines to Ruggles Station. Since we since we ended the contract regarding that, we need to take that $3 million out of the accounting program. And that's what Article 2 is, to rescind that vote and free up that $3 million.
Will the clerk read that article into the record, please?
The article is to see if the town will vote to rescind Article 15 from the 2022 annual spring town meeting in the amount of $3 million for the replacement of Swiss Beach sewer lines to Ruggles Pump Station, or to do or act in any manner thereto, relative thereto.
May I have a second?
Second?
Motion's made and seconded. Discussion, is that clear, what we're doing here? We've committed to borrowing and we have to uncommit, essentially, I think. Any further discussion? There being none, may I have a clerk call the roll, please?
Jimmy?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Sandy? Yes. Bernie?
Yes.
Article 3 is to now take that $3 million and align it to a contract for the repair of the failed gravity sewer lines on Swiss Beach.
May I have that in form of a motion?
So that's my motion.
Okay, may I have a second,
Second.
please? Any discussion? Any clarification?
So we're looking for $3 million that we just gave back, and we're asking for it back again.
Yes, yes,
We're reallocating.
yes.
Now, do we have a contract?
Not that I know of. Mr. Gam,
So if we okay this, we're not signing a contract?
No?
it will eventually be signed, but we haven't seen it. What we're doing is allowing us to have the funds available should a contract be signed, but if we
And why
don't,
did we give it back?
because of the purpose. You can't use the $3 million because it was done for the replacement of the lines using that,
All right, I got you.
It's a
So
different
now we're-
purpose.
We're looking for $3 million just to fix Wantico.
Wankinko and Murphy Street and Columbia
So
Street.
it's the same project.
Same project, just a different type of expenditures.
Gravity pumps.
So we're going to fix the gravity versus the sump pumps, the grinder pumps and the low pressure.
This is the project for Mr. Warren.
Excuse me?
This is the project for Mr. Warren. He has that solution, that device that he showed us.
So we approved this project in its conception at our last meeting. This is to find the funding for it.
The original was very specific in the wording.
Right, and I was unhappy with the way that was done at the last meeting.
Yes, you
And I
were.
wanted it separate. I'm perfectly okay to let Danny fix Wantico. I'm not ready to let him take on the whole project. And I can't imagine how he can do what he's talking about doing for the $3 million. And I believe he said he was going to do it for less.
Yes, but it's only appropriated for the project. He hasn't bid on the project yet.
Well, the presentation that Danny gave is something similar to what I suggested to Guy Jimmy and Russ, and as an engineer, he said it couldn't be done. So
Maybe at that time, but Mr. Warren has come up with a new mechanism that will allow it to be done.
the repair, yes, I'm not talking about that, but putting in the gravity system, if you figure the distance from the furthest point of Murphy to the pump station, it's probably a mile.
Well, that gravity system exists.
That's right, and it's 19, way down, it's 12 feet down. Danny's gonna bring it up to 4 feet. If you start at 4...
No,
No, I think you misunderstood.
he's going to bring in a separate line at 4 feet, but he's going to clear out the gravity line that's way down low, which would continue to be used.
I didn't understand he was putting in another line in.
He's putting a line closer to the surface.
He's jumping out between Bayview and Swiss Beach Road.
Yep.
He's putting in a separate line there. So everything that could fed from Phase 1, Wankinko, Pleasant, Bayview, Murphy, Columbia, Barnes, all fed into Wankinko. It's still going to feed into Wankinko, but there's a section between Bayview and Wankinko that he can jump out for those, I think there's 4 houses there, and then go and fix the main that needs to be repaired on Wankinko, and that will continue to service all of the Phase 1 homes in those 5 or 6 streets that I mentioned. And the way that he described it, it would, it's basically a relining of the pipe, encapsulating the pipe, and adding, he says, another 100 years to the life of the gravity system.
My understanding is there is, well, I mean, perhaps someone can explain it. What is the criticality of having this article on the warrant? This warrant?
So the work can start?
That's the issue.
That we've got to start the work to repair our gravity lines that are on Wankinko and the 20-foot ditches that he has to make in order to do that repair. It's extreme,
We've got to have approval for this in order
to do anything.
to have a contract.
Yes.
Yes, we
Without
must,
this, we can't even go off the
without this,
contract.
we don't have any funds available for any type,
Regardless of that, we can't even go out for the contract.
that is
Well,
correct.
right, you can't do an RFP.
Keep in mind, we've already committed the 3 million, we're just not using it for one piece of the project, we're using it on the another. So it's not additional money being committed, it's just refocused.
And the way the laws work in Massachusetts, you can't just take and swap the money around.
No, because-
Without eliminating it on paper and then bringing
Yep.
it back in on paper.
Yep, because the article from 2022 was so specific, we could not use that for this repair component.
And let's see, the 3 mil is for the replacement of Swift's Beach sewer lines, plural, to Ruggles Pump Station.
Repair and replacement.
Yes. It says for the replacement.
Well, that's number 2, you're not looking at number 3.
Oh, I didn't get number 3. I looked in my other packet. Very good.
I gave it to you. This afternoon when we came into this meeting, I
Yes,
gave you
okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. You want another copy?
Could I please?
Here's another
I
copy.
got one. Thank you.
Oh, no, that's a spare.
Oh, it is, okay.
Okay. Now, as I read it, we approve it, but it doesn't just now leave our hands. What kind of control do we as commissioners have on, let's say, the RFP, approval of the RFP? Don't get into who signs contract, but who approves it? Because my point is, or my feeling is, we do it in conjunction with.
Well,
He doesn't do it
that-
carte blanche.
I'd love it if we want to go ahead and fix Wankico, which is the emergency part of this thing,
Yes.
and appropriate the money for that, and let that be done, I'll go for it 100%. The rest of the project, I'm not saying I'm against it in any way, I'd just like to see more about it. I mean, because we've been told that it's concrete asbestos pipe. Okay, now, I know Danny can work miracles, but I don't know about shit, you know, sending shit uphill, but if he's talking about relining those pipes, and I thought I heard him mention that he was going clear back to the house with he was going to do the laterals as well. I can't see that happening for $3 million. That's why I'd like, if we split it up, I'd be very happy with it.
I think we're dealing with a lot of, several anyway, misunderstandings of what was said. Perhaps it should be fresher in our mind. However, we have to keep in mind, if we postpone this particular article, we delay the repair for the lines through Swift Beach.
And Memorial Day is coming pretty quick. Summer's coming pretty quick.
Yeah.
And if they can't keep pumping as frequently as they have to, we're going to have overspills into the bay, and those beaches will be closed for
I agree
contamination.
with you. We fix Wankico. We do it immediately. Appropriate the money for that. Get the emergency part done. Let's face it, we're not going to reline those pipes this summer while the people are there. That'd be foolish. You're going to wait till it's off-season. But get the emergency work that has to be done so everything's working down there and the beaches are clear. Why do we have to agree to the entire thing? That's my point. I don't understand that point.
At this point, Peter, it's the way it's written, and we can't rewrite it. We don't have that kind of ability.
I would have no idea of what the cost would be to repair Wankico only versus the whole project. We really have never had a presentation on the whole project, just what happened at our last meeting. We had some slides in front of us. Yes, there is some unknown to this component. If in fact they bring it down to a lower level at town meeting and reduce the dollar amount, that's possible on town meeting floor. But if we don't do something, we can't even repair Wankico.
Peter, you passed it, you have my word, we'll know what's going to happen before the summer's over.
Agreed. But here we are again, getting something jammed down our throat in order to get the emergency part of it done.
Right.
And this is what happened last time. We had one engineer come in and tell us, this is the way it has to be done. And that's the only information we get. We didn't get 2 or 3 engineers and 2 or 3 different opinions. If Danny had been here then and Beta, we would have had 2 different opinions. We only get one side of the argument and we have to agree to it. And then when it blows up, we get the blame. Now, you keep saying that we have to agree the whole thing or nothing gets done. I don't understand why.
You and I will work together to get all the information for the group.
Yeah, but they want to vote now.
I understand, and I say just, will you let it coast on the contingency that we will get all that through, all that information that's necessary? Because I don't believe, just because we say yes to it, if we could hold off on getting an RFP out and wait for that reason.
Well, if we say yes, then the emergency part of the project can go forward instantly.
Correct.
Yes.
And I would like to do that. But
Then make your vote.
I'm just scared of the rest of the project. I don't want to get bit in the ass that second time.
Make your vote conditional, that we do that.
Can we say it that way?
I say, well.
Can we
won't-
make the motion that way?
No, you make your vote that way conditional. Not, you can't change the motion. But you make your vote that conditional, and I promise, we'll do it.
Okay, what point are we at?
Waiting for your vote.
So,
Jimmy said yes. We're waiting for your vote.
yes,
Bob?
very reluctantly.
Bernie?
As reluctant as Peter, but yes.
Sandy, yes. That's 500 to submit this article to the selectmen for consideration in special town meeting. Now we have Article 4. Sorry, that puts it out of line. We can go to number 9 on the agenda. Article 4 is a number 12 agenda. Number 9 is discuss and vote on members authorized to approve sewer department payment warrants.
What do you currently do?
Right now, Jimmy does it. The accountant spent some time with me. She says she strongly recommend that we approve somebody to do the signing of the warrant and one backup for that person using names, not positions. Right now, Jimmy signs the warrant, and I have been the backup signing the warrants when Jimmy has been unable to physically come to the office.
So you want chairman, vice chairman, and/or clerk, or clerk?
No, the accountant says we can only have 2. So the recommendation would be that Bernie becomes the primary and Jimmy becomes the secondary approval of the warrants.
Approval of what?
The warrants, the bills,
Every week.
every week.
Does it have to be every week?
Yes.
Yeah, they're
It
gonna,
can't be every other week?
It could be anything, it's just that the town accountant.
I mean,
will get
if it was
overwhelmed,
every
so-
other week,
we could do it at
bring
the
them here
meetings. Yeah.
on Thursday and we do it.
But I would suggest you talk to the accountant because she has to process them. So
Okay.
if you double up the size, she's still got to process them. So I would check with her because we're making work for her that may or may not be doable.
Just have the, the motion contains the chair and the vice chair.
I
Not
make,
a time frame, not a time frame. So that if Judy Luzon requires us to do it every week, we'll do it every week. But it is the accountant that dictates what we're going to do.
okay, I make a motion that we approve Bernie Pigeon as the primary signer of the sewer department's warrants and that Jim Gibberti becomes the backup to that.
Motion's made, may I have a second?
Second?
Motion's made and seconded.
All in favor, Jimmy?
Does that mean we don't get to see them?
You'll see,
Oh, you'll
you've
definitely see
seen them
them.
in your, sorry, in your packets. You've been in the past given a list of what has been paid weekly in your packets, not all the time.
Paid.
That's what the warrant does, is pay.
Paid.
Yeah.
Yes, after the
We-
fact.
We see it after the fact.
That's right, that's why Jimmy sees it before the fact.
But you'll get a copy of it. I don't sign anything unless everybody sees it.
Jimmy, how long have you been signing the warrant?
7 years.
Have we had an issue with signing and paying incorrectly that you know of?
No?
He doesn't tend to disappear from time to time or anything like
But
that?
there were some items that were paid that I had a problem with. But it was,
They're no longer being done.
they were done. Guarino.
But he's no longer being done. He hasn't been on there in a year.
Well, who's to say that it wouldn't happen again? And the board would never know.
That's why your chair signs the warrant. They'll know.
Just the chair will know.
No, the chair and vice chair, no, but you'll get it in your packet before I sign. You at least, at a minimum, you're going to have a copy of it.
We can't get it before you sign it. You've got to sign it on Thursday night or Friday morning. We can't get it ahead of time.
Thursday night, Friday morning.
Friday morning, these warrants are signed Friday mornings.
They're processed Tuesday mornings. They're processed, the bills are processed. They're signed Friday. They're brought to the town hall by 11 o'clock Tuesday or Monday, but by 11 o'clock Tuesday is the deadline to be paid for the warrant. No, I'm sorry. You guys sign them that evening. So 11 o'clock, we got to get it to Judy. That's our, we get them to Judy. She may be a week behind, I can't tell you. But that's our process, and we have to get it to Judy by 11 o'clock on Tuesday. That's our deadline, and she said she has to submit them the selectmen for endorsement.
You mentioned Friday morning.
I've gone down, we sign them Friday morning.
When you say gone down
I
where?
physically go down to the plant and go
Oh,
through
okay,
all the paperwork.
I know you're open 24/7, so it's,
Yeah,
They're open Monday through Friday. They're not,
Yeah, we're 7 days a week. Any day, if you want to do it on Sunday, we can make it happen. We're there 7 days a week. But the point is that they have to be to Judy by 11 o'clock on Tuesday.
okay.
That's all, that's the point. She
We'll
has
work
to
it out,
have
we'll work it out.
You can do it
And we'll make
anytime
sure
you want.
everybody's pleased with the process.
Brady, can I make a comment?
yeah,
Certainly.
come to the microphone, please.
I'll speak loud.
Come to the microphone, please.
And introduce yourself.
And introduce yourself for the record.
Selectman, you authorize,
I guess what he says is not important.
No. Thank you.
I'll sit in the garage again for that.
With all those antique cars you must have.
Yeah. I just want to make clear how this really works. The bills come through Water Pollution Control Facility, whoever signs it, just signs it that it's okay to pay. It goes to Mrs. Lazan. She goes through if there's any contracts to make sure they're there and they're processed properly. She puts them on basically on the warrant. It goes to the selectmen, and the selectmen now have been going through all the warrants. If there's any questions, we pull it and don't pay it. We've been doing this with the school, with the town, et cetera. So there's a lot more scrutiny going on now. But there's 3 steps of checks and balances.
Right, you're the last signature on the warrant.
You do not authorize, except to say it's okay to pay. Judy's the one that has to say it's under a contract, if there is a contract, and then we have to go through it and say yes or no. Thank you.
Now, all that discussion just to have Jimmy or I sign the warrants.
So, the bottom line is, only the person signing the warrant knows what's being paid. We
And-
won't find out until after the fact.
Correct.
I love the way this town works. Mother of God.
Actually, it's rather typical, Peter.
The motion was made and seconded by Jimmy to authorize Bernie Pigeon as the primary approver of the warrants and Jimmy Gibberti as the backup. The motion is made. Jimmy, your vote?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Sandy? Yes. Bernie?
Yes.
500. We will have to let the accountant know of this, and if you cannot, Bernie, physically do the warrant, you have to send a notice to her that Jimmy will be your backup signing the warrant.
Okay,
So she's aware of who's going to sign it on what payment cycle.
very good. I'll take care of that.
The next article, discussion of the Swiss Beach Sewer Project. We just put it on there to say that we have canceled the contract.
What happened to item 8? Did we ever get to Article 4?
Article 4 is covered in Article 12 on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay,
So Jimmy signed the final paperwork this morning canceling the project, and it's FedExed to the person who had the contract.
essentially that's canceled, and we just passed the 3 mil to allow it to proceed in a different form.
Yes. The next thing on the agenda was a discussion of the 5-year capital plan. This is running late. My recommendation, it be placed on the next agenda for a discussion. I just want the board to know what has been proposed in capital planning.
Okay, we'll move that to next meeting. The question I have, though, Sandy, in its preparation, was the 2015 study used to determine which the order, the quality of the,
It was part of the consideration, but
Yeah.
it did not put in that was a how many year plan? Multi-year plan? and it was only brought to current, Mr. Campina comes and discusses it with capital planning as to what is focused on next. In the town website, there's a 2015 list of critical, yellow, et cetera. It needs to be updated. It was a 20-year capital plan. It was a major, or a study that was done and presented to us. And honestly, it's been a long time since anybody looked at this. I would have to ask Mr. Campina, how many of these projects have been done since 2015 and what is outstanding?
Yes, 'cause
That's
there's-
why we need a major capital. We need to understand the capital plan before it comes to capital planning, is, I guess, another way of saying it.
Yes, because that one focuses a great deal on the plant itself, and there's another study out that did all the pump stations.
Yes, so, to me, that's another meeting, because we are running.
Just one 30-second comment.
Yes.
Russ Camp Engineer, GHD. We put together that 2015, would be happy to update it for you.
Yeah, because in 2015, everything was aging very rapidly.
It's a different world back then, so we would be happy to update it for you. I will send Mr. Campina an email on the timeline when the board can expect to see an updated one.
That would be helpful. And take a look at all the logs and everything, that'd be helpful.
The next agenda item is Article 4, the $1.1 million to be transferred to cover costs that have already been incurred. Maybe Mr. Campina can speak to why we need the 1.1 is an issue of timing. The money was set aside, but not really set aside, and went back to revolving funds at the end of a fiscal year because it wasn't used. And now it's available again.
I hate this chair. Mr. Chairman, if you will, GHD can speak to the 1.1. They initiated the paperwork from the DEP that went to Derek. They can explain it to you why the 1.1 was needed.
Sure.
The appropriation for the construction project, the D-Night filters, and the EQ basin was $9 million. That was through the SRF funding program. When the bids came in, again, you'll recall earlier in the meeting, a slide indicating bids post-COVID. The bids came in, and the base bid was $8 million. If you, I will get the exact number.
Sandy has it.
Perfect.
The 4 projects that were approved for the $9 million, 4.5 for the odor control, $2 million for the D-Night filter, $1 million engineering for the D-Night and odor control, 2.5 for the 2 basins, engineering and constructions, and 150 for plant evaluation. That became the total amount, of which only $9 million was approved in Article 18 of 2020. So it was not clear to me what part of that total project was that, 10.1 million makes up this 1.1 that we're short.
Yep, so thank you for reading those numbers. So a portion of so each project has to have a contingency, 5% contingency on a construction, as well as the construction services. Those have to be funded, and the DEP needs indication that that can be funded if it's not within the loan amount. So the $8,797,885,000 that was the bid amount, you need to include 5% contingency plus the construction services. And so that pushes over the 9 million. And so a portion of the contingency, specifically $237,779, and the construction services of $796,000 for a total of $1,033,779 was over that amount that, sorry.
Slower.
Sorry.
Right,
I'm so
right.
sorry.
And should we follow this up with an email with these numbers? And yes.
Yes, from-
So what we're having is the contingency and the construction services totaled the 1.1 million that was not covered in that $9 million article, if I'm hearing that
correct.
right. Yeah.
Correct. I believe 1.1 million may have been a cost that was over the exact amount to cover it.
Slightly rounded up, I think. it was.
Rounded up, correct, yep. But that is correct. That is the amount in addition to the base bid contract that needed to be covered. And it represents a portion of contingency as well as the construction services. Apologies for...
This project is complete?
This project has achieved a substantial completion as of March 29th, 2023.
So the increased costs were incurred as the project was in progress?
No, the increased cost is due to the materials increases due to the pandemic. This project was bid in spring of 2021. And so the loan amounts that were appropriated and gone for in the SRF loan were in 2020 and prior. And so this was an example of a bidding climate where...
Bids came in slightly higher.
Yep, bids came in higher, correct, than anticipated because of the material cost increase, et cetera. Does that answer your question? Apologies. What was the other?
Like I said, the project is in progress.
Correct.
Yes, it's about 95% complete, probably 99.
Isn't some of it done? The
Correct,
odor
about-
control?
Yes, about 99. So substantial completion, that term means that the project has been completed and it's online being intended as it's designed. Now, there's probably a handful of other things. It could be anything from landscaping to trash pickup. That's all included as a punch list. When the punch list is done, the project goes from substantial completion to final completion. So when we say substantial, that means the project it's online and is functioning as designed. The bid itself came in a little bit higher, so the elevated cost wasn't due to a change order or something during construction. Just when we opened the physical bids, it was slightly higher than the estimate. So when you add on the required 5% contingency from Mass DEP,
And the construction services?
and the construction phase services, that brought us up to the 9 million plus the 1.03, what we're calling the 1.1.
And so the 9 million was anticipated prior to the pandemic to be a number that could include both of those items. When the bids came in 2021, the bids came in higher because of that.
When did you become aware of the shortfall?
At the bid
Bid
opening.
At the bid opening, yes. We immediately contacted Mass DEP, and they indicated that provided the town could cover the overage, that they would still award the $9 million grant.
Because if you would take a look at the component of Article 18, 9 million that was approved, the detail behind it came up to 10.1. So even when the article was submitted to town meeting floor, the detail behind it exceeded the 9 million.
Okay. I'm just, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm
No, it's just that at the time it was voted on at town meeting,
Okay.
if you were to look at the detail
Understood,
behind it,
understood.
you would have recognized it was 1.1 short.
There was already evidence of a shortfall.
Understood.
Yep.
And that, I believe, was the operating budget was what was covering that when we said, where is this coming from?
That was the town meeting after. You remember, we put out the IUP. The town meeting in October was canceled to November, canceled to December, a vote to appropriate the 9 million. The January, I think it was January, February, March, the bids went out. The Springtown meeting, we knew we were over. So that may be what you're referring to. But when we asked for the 9 million back in the year before, when the IUP has to go in, they made an estimate that everything should be 9 million, and that wasn't the case when the bids were
Well,
opened.
I'm going to disagree with you
Oh, you can,
because
I
of the
just-
Article 18 of December 14th, 2020, the detail behind that 9 million article totaled 10.1. So we knew back in December of 2020, there was a shortfall that would be taken care of.
I don't know how we could, we didn't have the
Yeah.
bids opened.
Well, I'm
Well,
just telling you.
after the bids were open, they knew. You
After
just
the
made that
bids were open,
statement.
that's all I'm
And
saying.
from my point of view, this adjustment should have been made at least a year and a half ago.
Well, it was. They made the adjustment when the letter was written, the original letter from John Fawcett to the DEP.
But it didn't show up on the warrant, they make the
Yeah, I don't know what
appropriation.
happened, but John,
Yeah.
they made the deal and they approved the 1.1 million.
And
Derek and John, and they wrote the letter. The
that letter
said
is
that.
in your packet.
So you have the letter. So
Your packets.
once we became aware when the bids were open, it proceeded. And so here we are. And so what happened between then and now, the monies are not there. We submitted the bills to be paid, and the monies have not been moved, so we cannot pay the bills. And so that's why we have the article bring that money. It was coming out of the 2021 budget. So because we didn't use it in the 2020 budget to pay this, it went into retained earnings, as all the budget money that we don't use goes into. And now we're saying pull it back out, as it was said that we would use it and take it out in 2021. That's why we did it in the spring, so we could have it for that year, and we never did. So it never did, and I can't explain to you why, beyond me, but it was never pulled out, and so now we're trying to pull it out.
Anyone else with any concerns? Questions?
I make a motion that we approve Article 4 for transferring of retained earnings, to read the article to see if the town will vote to transfer 1.1 million from FY23 Water Pollution Control Facility FY23 certified retained earnings to fund the non-state revolving fund loan portion of the WPCF plant upgrades that were approved under Article 18 of the December 14th, 2020 town meeting, or to do or act in any manner therefore. In the explanation, it will say to you what we have for retained earnings and what the balance will be if this article is passed. But that's my motion to approve this article for consideration at the special town meeting.
I'll second what she said.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Jimmy?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Sandy? Yes. Bernie?
Yes.
Passes 500. It will be submitted to the Selectman's office on Monday morning with the other 3 articles.
Next item is the superintendent's report.
I'll be brief, I know we're late.
Dazzle this guy, come on,
I
dazzle
know
it.
dazzle. Dazzling days are over. The sludge, we got a notice today from Synagro that they're hoping to be back online early next week. I think they're heating the cooker, we call it, it's incinerator, where our sludge is incinerated. They've dealt with the issues from the DEM from Rhode Island, and they're able to go back online on a limited basis, but it's back online, so we should start moving sludge. They were gracious, sent us a tanker yesterday and today. So we'll start moving product. The tanks are pretty full. The frac tanks that we're renting are full. Our sludge tanks are full. Tanks of GBT are full. Clarifiers are full. And the sand filters are seeing it, and the basin number 3 is half full. So we're kind of in a critical state here. So we're excited to hear that we may be getting more and more trucks next week, so we're pretty excited about that, and we'll continue to move forward on that.
Guy, at what rate can you deliver sludge down there?
I'm sorry?
At what rate can you deliver your sludge down there? Do they have a limitation or that you can deliver on a daily basis?
Yes, our contract is for 2 to 3 trucks a day. We're getting a truck a week. That's how much sludge I move. So if I don't move sludge, so as it collects in the bottom of the clarifier, sludge is developed in the nitrification, denitrification process. Then it goes for clarification, and it sinks to the bottom of the clarifier, and we waste it. And a high percent we return to the headworks again to reuse it's a biological, we call mixed liquor, to reuse it. So as we collect it in the tanks, we run it through the gravity belt thickener, so we make it thicker from 1% to 6%. And then we load it onto tankers, and we do 2 to 3 a day, and we send it to Woonsocket to be burnt.
Okay, our contract is to 2 to 3 trucks a day.
Yes, so
What backlog do we have now? How many truckloads are
I couldn't-
pending in
couldn't
all
tell you.
storage? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, pending, okay.
I
yeah.
can't tell you. The
How
numbers are
many trucks will
staggering.
it take to,
I can't tell you. I have no idea. I didn't calculate. All I know is that I've got to empty probably, we got 40,000 there, 40,000 there, 80,000 there, and 80,000 there. So those numbers just rough off the top of my head. I got to move all that product. And plus, while I'm doing that, I got to stay current. So it's going to be a bunch of trucks, so it is
so
what it is.
we're weeks away from catching up?
Yeah, we are. We're a long ways away from
Is that
catching
what
up.
you were asking?
Use very large trucks.
Yes.
Yeah, well, you can only put over the road. We got 9,000-gallon tankers as a weight limitation, so we do what we got to do, and we just keep running. The problem was that a truck leaves here, gets to Woonsocket, and takes 2 to 3 days to unload. So that's been the backup. So you just can't get trucks in. Matter of fact, the contractor that was hauling our sludge refuses to haul it because it costs him money to leave his trucks there waiting because he's got to pay drivers. So it's not cost effective. So he just stopped doing it. So Synagro has got another hauler dealing with it until everybody catches up. And keep in mind, it's not just me, it's New Bedford, Somerset, Seekonk, I can go on and on and on, plus Rhode Island. So
Do
it's,
we have to sign that? Do we have a contract for the new hauler?
no, we have a contract with Synagro, and Synagro contracts haulers.
Okay,
So that's out of our hand. When we had haulers contracted, the haulers could not guarantee the sludge to be moved. And we can't operate without a guarantee of sludge being moved, so we went right directly to Synagro, which is an actual facility. And the only two incinerators in this area are Synagro in Woonsocket, Rhode Island, and Cranston, Rhode Island has a incinerator, and that's all we have. The other ones are closed. I got to tell you, the groups that are environmentalists are doing a great job of shutting things down, but the effects are traumatic, and I don't know what we're going to do. And of course, PFAS is shutting down landfills and application to farms in, Maine and Vermont and even out in the Midwest. And, so that's becoming more and more difficult also. So it's a major issue, and I think the EPA and DEP will one day figure it out, and we'll wait patiently until that happens. So it's a major problem. They're looking to site and build a plant in Pennsylvania. And we'll see how that goes. There was one cited for Taunton that fell apart. I think some justice group stopped it. And the one in New Jersey is not going either. So we'll just keep waiting and see what happens. But anyways, I'm excited that we're going to move product again short term. Long term, I don't know. The order system, the one we put in 1999.
Before you go any further,
Yeah.
so the sludge that you have on hand, is it causing us a problem to run the plant properly?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
that's why he's storing it in so many different tanks.
I got to keep moving around. Plus, our blankets are supposed to be 2 feet. We're carrying 8-foot blankets. So what happens with an 8-foot blanket on a 10-foot
All right.
clarifier, it goes. And so we're back, we had a major spill in the filters Monday, Sunday. So the filters plug up, it goes into the new basins, and we got to go, we got to clean them up. It's just problematic. The guys got to work around the clock to get it up and running. So, yeah, but it's not just us. I really, and I don't want to, it's like poor me. No, it's what everybody's going through in New England. We're all suffering. We're all struggling. We can look at the problem was presented itself 25 years ago, and we still have the problem.
Is it conceivable to rent a couple of railroad cars and pump them full and then move it as we can?
I would have to have a place to go with the railroad cars. All right, tankers can go to Woonsocket. I suppose if we could get a rail link to Woonsocket, and I could pump it over the river to our rail link, because that's where the rail link is, I suppose, or we could take it to a tanker and to a cab. I'm sure it's all doable. I'm sure it is. I just don't know the cost, and I don't know the logistics, but we can
What
look
about
into it.
just, renting a couple of railroad cars that are on the siding in Middleborough, and just trucking it that far for now, and then as you can, feed it out, just so the plant gets to run properly?
Yeah, so we're renting frac tanks, and they drop them off. They come on tractor trailers. It hooks up to a tractor. He drops them. We get them as we need them. We got 2 the other day. We filled them. And if this crisis will continue, I'd rent another 2. And I'll keep doing that. Now, the cost is $900 a month per tank. And we'll keep renting them so we can keep out of the river. And that'll go on. But remember, I can keep filling them, but I gotta empty them. It may take me a long time. So I concern myself, but we'll keep doing that and keep following along to meet the demands as they come to us. We really have.
And as silly
limited
as it
options.
sounds, you say you've got 2 trucks. If you had 20, would the plant be running better?
Well, if I could get them to bring 20 trucks tomorrow, yeah, it'd be great.
Just to use them to get it out of the plant.
Yeah, so that sounds good, but I'd have to find a contractor. Let's say you own a tanker. I say, Peter, here, let me fill it, park it. Don't know when you're going to empty it, so you can't use your truck until you get it emptied. But yeah, I like to use your truck. So that's what we're doing to these haulers. Haulers in the business of making the businesses. So we're saying, yeah, give me your tanker. I can't tell you when you'll unload it. That's beyond me. But please fill it from my facility. And remember, we're all asking the same question of all these, and then say, now take it to your yard and do what you got to do with it, and eventually you'll empty it. We're having a hard time finding contractors that are willing to do that because they want to roll the truck because that's how they make their money. The truck rolls, they make money. A parked truck makes them no money. And so when you fill it with sludge and the only 2 incinerators in the New England is not taking them, that truck sits. And that's the big problem. They're lined up in Woonsocket. They're lined up.
I understand
So
all
that's-
that.
yeah, so
All I'm worried
Peter's
about
asking you.
is the plant backing up.
Yeah, it is. We've been running high for a month and a
More
half.
tanks, facility,
Ship it to Washington.
how much more do
Wish we
you
could.
have to have in order to
They wouldn't
ease
even
the
know.
project, ease the burden on the plant? How many more storage tanks do you use? You doing 2,
I can-
4, 6?
I could probably, if this process continued, it'd be hundreds. Because
Well, okay,
I don't know.
but you have the capability of
renting.
relieving the issue on the plant by having a storage
I keep renting them.
renting. Is that what you're asking?
The
him?
900
Yeah.
$900 a month per unit.
But wait a minute, in your explanation, you were talking about the trucks sitting there idle, and now you have bringing in a tank on a flatbed at 900 a month.
Yeah, it's a frac tank. So yes, we drop it and you leave it.
Okay.
And I
900
have
a
the
month?
ability to pump into it, pump out of it, pump into it, pump out of it.
Okay, but you're not tying up a truck.
I'm not tying up a
So
truck.
that's not, so that's fine.
That's
Now
fine.
you have that tank, you can sit there at 900 bucks, which is inexpensive from my
In the
point of
big
view.
picture,
And you could collect a half a dozen of them
I can collect
until this situation turns
can
around.
keep collecting them.
So you could lighten the load on the plant.
We are.
By renting extra tanks.
I am. I'm to the max. So I think what Peter asked, if I rent 100 of them, which I could, and take all this capacity and put them in a tank, I could do that. But the problem is, for me, is that as I get away from these tanks, I start putting them all over the place, I got to truck them to that, and that means trucks, hiring trucks to go take them from here to
That's
there
why
to there, so it's kind of long.
I asked about a railroad car.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it.
The
You can look at
equivalent
it.
to, what, I don't know, 10 trailers?
Yeah. When you come to the plant again, you can see, I'll show you where the tanks are, and you can see how we're logistically doing it as the need arises, but we're running high. We've been running high. This sludge problem has been around for 2 years. We've been running high for years. We've been running high, we've been running 8s. The lowest blankets we've had in the last couple of years is 5 foot. Because it's a crisis. Once PFAS came in, the implementations of the law, everything's closing down. And we've been talking about this for years. And it came to a head because Synagro got shut down by the Department of Environmental Management in Rhode Island. Now we only have 2 to handle all the capacity in New England, and 1 goes down, we're all panicking, and that's where we are. So all I'm saying, that my introduction was, they're up and running, they got permission to go back on a limited basis, we're getting some relief, and I'm hoping it continues. So that's, for me, I got 2 trucks. I haven't seen 2 trucks in a long time. I got 1 yesterday, 1 today, and I'm ecstatic. And I'm hoping to get some more next week. So right now, I'm
I
feeling
know how we
great.
can make the 36 million. Let's build an incinerator.
But I looked at it, it's just, I can't cite it, Peter. I would love to. One of the things we look at is it realistic to build some type of disposal facility, because everybody needs it.
Exactly.
But the problem is citing it, because when you go through the agencies, you're looking at 5 years permitting process and then construction. And that's the dilemma with everything we do, you know, as a country.
So it might be a long time
It'd be a
solution.
long
but it would-
time, but it's there. But we can get the solution. We may not live to see the end of the solution,
Like I said-
but we can start the
You
solution.
got to store 5 years of sludge.
But we'll keep storing it and
Like
do
I
what we
said.
got to do. It's crazy, but
Or
it's
any
just,
of this gets paid off, I'll be worrying about diapers.
that's the bottom line. So we keep ordering tank. We just ordered 2 this week. We keep ordering. I got 3 in
Okay.
right this second, and I got many on. So
Moving
that's-
on, Guy.
Yeah, so, okay, that's what that is. Again, the odor control unit's back online. It was put in 1999. That's part of the upgrade to the headworks. We've Mickey Moused it back on to get something done, so we're excited about that. We've been getting some odor complaints, so we can tell them nicely we got it back
Wait a
online.
minute, what odor control is online?
The old
I
one,
thought
the old one.
I didn't think we had a covered old
And
one.
then we have an older system that sucks odor out of the headworks, sucks out of the building, the old one.
It goes to the headworks.
Yeah, it's old.
Okay,
Internal odor control.
Yeah, it's
okay.
old, it's old. We finally got it on because the headworks, as you can imagine, when everything comes through, is very
yes.
stinky.
So I was quite surprised to see an odor complaint when I thought we put in some major odor basins. So I was saying,
This is a Pista.
Meeting would have been over an hour ago.
This is the Pista. I'll talk about briefly. Peter, yeah, here you go, Jim. Thank you. Good.
Wow.
All right. Life is great. Pista. So we went to Kansas to look at it, and one of the things that appealed to me is that it's a shorter period of
Can
time.
you spell it for me, please?
P-I-S-T-A.
That's the name. So if I was to Google that name, I can find
this
some
you?
information.
Yeah, you could get Pista under Smith Loveless, P-I-S-T-A. It's patented by Smith Loveless. And you could actually do a lot, you can Google them. It's a really interesting read. I'm serious. So we went to the factory, we've seen how they build them. We looked at the process, we looked at the steel coming in, the cost of steel, all that stuff was reiterated. So this facility is in Kansas City, outside of Kansas City. Can't tell exactly where, but one of the questions we asked ourselves is when we do this upgrade is how big of a building do we have to build? Can we just replace components? All those questions are being asked as they do their diligence. So one of the things that I liked about this was that this is standalone. Put it outside. You can see it's on a skid. And you can build them as big as you want them. So this one here is, I believe, a 1.5. We were looking at a 7.0 MGD, million gallons per day, a flow rate to handle the peak flows that we have. So, and what's missing from this Pista is underneath, on top of Sarah's head, you'll see 4 poles, and there's a cage that goes there. And this particular Pista didn't need one because they had it in the building already, and so that was built custom for this facility, because they are built custom for facilities. But you can see the heat trace or the black lines around that long extension on the backside of Sarah's, look at top of her head, you'll see that that's heat trace, because this is outside. And Kansas gets cold winters, and that's why we're excited about this, because it's comparable, maybe not exactly, but comparable to our weather. So can we put it outside? And that was one of the things we're looking at. There's no final answer because engineers have not done their design yet. But we wanted to see the viability of it, what it really is, and how it's being utilized. And this is an actual system being utilized in Kansas. In New England, usually we put them in buildings. That's what's happening, and then you've got all the issues with buildings. They got to be huge. And that's why we asked, we could just stick this outside, put it in now, get the problem solved immediately, and then do the rest, which would be the electrical components, the odor control system, all the things we need for the building. Yeah, then we would look at that and see where we are, with the goal of trying to, as they said earlier, sharpen the pencil. How do we sharpen the pencil? We know what we want to do, we know what we have to do, but there's 100 ways to do it, and you got to look at all of them. And that's what this trip was all about, to look at a way of doing
Their
it.
website seems to call it a grid sand removal system.
Well, the Pista means that in this system, there's a grit removal, vortex grit removal, and a cage to remove rags or baby wipes.
That's, well,
Yeah,
they
all
seem
of it.
to promote it being a grid sand removal system.
Yeah, one of them. They do one of that, do that also.
Okay, then I guess
Yeah.
it's not.
Well, they make about 4 different kinds. Look at, just
Okay.
keep going on the website, because it's story. But anyway, so that's what this is. I wanted you to see it. The trip was worth it. Okay, yeah, it was well worth it.
So what's coming out of the conveyor here is what would be going into the dumpster?
Yes. It's dry.
Yeah,
Really
okay.
dry, so we can truck it, you know what I mean? And what I like about it also, right now, to send my product to Bourne, I have to bulk it, which means I got to put wood chips in it. So I'm paying for extra weight for wood chips, and if
Why do you have to put the wood chips in?
because of odors, Bourne and DEP requires it, but this product comes out dry, and we were in it, and no odor. We were kind of excited.
So you mean you put the
Big in.
wood chips in it strictly for odor?
Well, yeah, for odor, and yeah, for odor, yeah, absolutely. We put wood chips in it, odor, we put lime in it, because Bourne at one time said they wouldn't take it, so we went through that process, and Bill Ellis from the DEP said bulk it, and so we've got an order to bulk it. And we have wood chips, because we get them for free, so I bulk it with wood chips.
He's got a lifetime supply.
We could bulk it with sawdust, we could bulk it with many things, but I got wood chips come out years. We made a deal with NSTAR at the time, but I think now it's Eversource.
Well,
When they clean
if
the
there's
trees. they
something
get-
causing an odor,
Well, it's coming out of the
doesn't that kind
wastewater.
of make it,
Well, the
doesn't
point
it have
is,
to be organic?
yeah, well, it's coming in the wastewater. This process washes it. The process is unique. This does not do it justice of what it does. I'll have to get you a pan.
So
This
this,
comes out nice and clean.
if it's not organic, it wouldn't have a smell.
Well, I beg to differ. It's organic, and it's non-organic, and it all smells. Soak a rock in wastewater, pick it out, and tell me if it smells.
Can you make it?
You know, because sand,
You wanna go
grit,
that way?
yeah, it all smells. Anyways, so that's the picture. I don't want to beat it up.
Oh, you're gonna
I'll
get
get you more
around this.
information on it. And guys, as they do the designs of what we're trying to accomplish, and I mean it, there's a table there, and we'll have plans and designs and all. It's your office. Go down there and utilize it and see the plans, see everything, because it'll take the mystery out of most things. I can't give it justice by explaining it. I can't give it justice by a picture. Go and see it, and then you
What's
can go to
the
the plant.
cost?
This one here is $800,000. The one that I'm doing for 7.0, I haven't got a, they're gonna quote it out. I haven't seen it yet. This one is
They're
built,
going to
so we know.
quote it out?
Yeah, they're gonna tell me what it would cost to build it. We don't know yet. We asked for 7.0, we wanted the monies to build it, because we gotta include the barrel. We asked for a specific barrel that takes the rags out, so they're gonna give us an idea what the cost is. We're guesstimating.
So we do this instead of a Headworks?
No, I don't wanna say that. This is just an alternative for the screenings and for the,
Well, isn't that what the Headworks does, the screening of the rags in the dirt?
and it does. It also does the septage, which this doesn't do. It also does the electrical system. It also does the odor control system.
So
Yeah,
why
it does
go-
more than,
Why
What
go
other
with
offerings in the industry?
I'm sorry?
What other offerings from the
Oh,
industry?
we're looking at it. They're looking at them, absolutely.
Correct. The $18 million, right, this is what we were talking about for the headworks. With any problem, there's a solution. It's the engineer's job to find what are the solutions to this. If there is solution A, B, and C, so if a traditional headwork solution is, headworks building a solution A at this cost, if there's, hey, is there a skid mounted that's way less for a solution B, or is there a solution C? So we evaluate all the solutions, make a recommendation, what we feel is in the best interest of the town, present that to the guy in the sewer board. So if there is a way for this to save the town money, work, and be sized properly for future expansions and to allocate it to plant, absolutely. We always look at different technologies when we're designing these facilities, so we will include this in our evaluation.
Did you say what the cost was?
He did not.
No, I don't,
He said the total,
No, I don't know.
to split the 36, headworks to clarify, is 18 million. That's the 36.
But, I mean, are they sized?
Yes, you can size them.
So do you size them by the gallon, or?
Yes, they're sized by peak flow of a treatment plant. That's how everything's sized. So our peak flow is 7, it's right at 6.5, 6.8 MGD. That's our peak flow. So we'd want a 7. This one at 7 MGD, if that's what we did. And in anything we
So
get,
do you have an idea what that costs?
Once we evaluate it, we will, but not right now. We feel it'll be underneath. It's not going to be more than this, the 18 million number, if that's what you're thinking. It's not, we don't.
No, I was just,
Not right now.
we
We'd
think
have
it'll
to-
be, this cost, remember, this is just one component because I have to tie this into the system, so we got to get you the total cost.
It's not as simple as just dropping it off and plugging it in.
It
and
would be
walking
unfair to me to say I can get this for
away. I'm not saying
800,000.
that anybody said that, but it's just,
oh my God, I thought all we had to do was run an extension cord.
Well,
engineers would be out of a job
would
if
love
that
it.
was the case.
oh, don't tell Peter that. He'd promote for plug and play.
But this does not
Solve
re-
all the issues.
replace the system
Headworks.
itself that needs the upgrade. This is just a portion of it.
That's right.
Right, and we're seeing if there is validity to incorporating this into the design.
And we're going to do the same thing with septic receiving. Look at all the different options out there before we make a decision, because that's gone too. We're having a hard time taking septic because the grit, when the grit and rags, so rags are everywhere. I don't know what's going on. We can't get rid of them. They're even getting more and more and more. I'm debating right now where the guy that makes bamboo toilet paper says it's better for everybody. It isn't, because it's more fibrous. People understand that baby wipes destroy systems. The only thing you should flush is white toilet paper. That's it. That's all that should go down your toilet and whatever comes out of your body. That is absolutely it. Even in the gravity system. Because in the gravity system, all the nooks and crannies, when you put pipes together, they gather there. The grease gathers there. Your hair gathers there. You name it. Floss grabs and it just plugs a pipe. It's everywhere. So everybody says, oh, gravity, I can flush anything. That's a misconception. Same thing, white toilet paper only. That's
Well, what
reality.
about this new bamboo toilet paper?
I'm fighting with the guy. We're going back and forth. He's, well, people love it. People, yeah, because you can probably use the same sheet 3 times. I don't know. But why would you love it? But the bottom line is it's no good. It's no good because it becomes problematic. And the words they use is flushable. It's flushable. Well, heck, a bowling ball's flushable. It just, it doesn't break down. It's not flushable in the sense of degradation. If you took some toilet paper, put it in a bowl, and swish it around, it vanishes. That's what we need. You take a piece of bamboo paper or some of the others, and take a baby wipe, put it in there and squish it around, it'll be there. You can do that for the rest of your life, it'll still be there. So that's what we're saying, and it's fibrous, and it reweaves. And once it reweaves, you got a long chain, and a pipe, it gets into a pump, takes the pump out. So we're deragging constantly, we're replacing pumps constantly. It's a major, major product. So the backside of the costs are horrendous. So that's why I'm saying, we look at all that. So that's the septage, so we're having trouble, that's gone. So they gotta look for the same thing for septage. What can we have for septage? Because when we get septic trucks, they pump out septic tanks, same problem. Same amount of, so we gotta do that also. So that encompasses the whole thing of the headworks.
I'm going to interrupt you for a minute.
Yeah,
For the
please.
record, Jimmy Gibberti left at 8:35, and he will not be returning. Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
I'm sorry, Jim. See, I knew I shouldn't have given a report because he could have left. Anyways, so that's pretty much my report. And I'll leave it at that, and we'll take other things as we go.
Thank you. Is there any unfinished or unanticipated items one would like to talk about? Comment on?
Excuse me?
Is there anything that was unanticipated or items one would like to talk about?
I think we're on to new business.
Unanticipated?
No, I'm in unfinished business in general orders.
Article number 14 on the agenda.
In unanticipated items, so is anything,
I don't know if this is the time to insert it, but I'd like to discuss with the board the way we do these contracts, where we only get to hear one side of, we only get one bid and we only get one engineer come in and give us an idea of what he's going to do and what it's going to cost.
now I understand I'm coming from a different perspective in that about it, what is happening in the past. Do you see or have input to any?
Well, I don't
RFPs?
know. That's why I want to have a discussion. I don't like that. I mean, it is what got us in trouble in Swift's Beach. We only had one engineer come in with one solution. We didn't have any option but to go for it.
So
And I
effectively,
don't like that system.
so effectively, you had an opportunity to talk to only the winner of the
Well,
RFP.
Even
of the
before
bidding process.
even before the winter.
Even before it. So you were not you feel, and I'm just speculating now, that you were not a part of the process, and considering as
I
a
don't,
commissioner, you should have been.
it's not a case of being part of the process. I think we're forced to make a decision with too limited amount of knowledge. That it's one engineer with the grinder pumps. It was the only way this could possibly be done. Now Danny's saying that he can repair the gravity system. That should have happened a year ago.
I feel the same way, excuse me, as I watched this process go forward. There was an awful lot of questions that were trying to be asked that should have been asked a year ago. Or the process should have been formulated over a year ago.
But we're not engineers, so we have to trust what the engineer is telling us. I think Bob Drake let us down terribly. He didn't give us some information even after the people came in here with their questions. We got 5 minutes before we started that question and answer session, we were told we were going on private property. Up until that point, we were not going on private property. 5 minutes before the question and answer, long after the contract was signed. That's ridiculous.
I agree.
Well, I want to come up with some sort of a way to fix that.
We'll have to continue the discussion and come up with, and formulate a process and adopt it.
Okay.
Because we can't go around, and I've listened to some of the past meetings, you're discussing subjects that should be resolved, and they don't show up again and we'll leave this on the agenda for next meeting. So we'll constantly have it before us, so we'll constantly be talking about it.
Yeah, I never want something brought to us that costs money. For example, the last meeting we had when we spent $84,000 for an engineering firm to evaluate the Chinese epoxy. And we had to decide then. And then, once again, we only got one engineer's opinion.
I don't think,
As-
we never got the result.
Excuse me?
We haven't heard the result yet, have we?
No, but we okayed the $84,000 to study it. And as soon as I asked somebody else about it that was in the epoxy business, they said we wasted our money. Now, that's the kind of thing I want to see prevented.
That's not a way to do business, considering who we are. And we have to...
But it's what got us in trouble. This Bob will stand, that's why he's here.
Well, you bring up that point, we don't know, we still don't have an answer for the line from, the main line down to the plant from the back of Wareham, right?
No, we don't have a contract yet.
Because we're waiting for this evaluation on the
The
lining.
evaluation ain't gonna start till it gets a contract. The process.
I thought we approved the 83,000 contract.
It has a process it has to go through.
So we're,
See,
again,
now,
Put that on the agenda. We're going to have an awful lot of things on the agenda.
you're
We're
going to get
resolve-
yelled at again for leaning back.
Now I gave up.
But these chairs are so comfortable.
We'll make arrangements next week.
And what the process
Better than
was,
the
is
old ones.
the Primus lining was the lining that Wright Pierce presented when we did the original
Yeah,
bid. And we
but-
all saw the Primus lining, so we're gonna rebid it. When we went to rebid it, Wright Pierce said they heard about a company that's cheaper.
Yeah.
And so they have the ability to bid. So we could have just said, okay, we already have the bid from Wright Pierce, put it back out, and run the risk of this Chinese company that said they have a knockoff that's cheaper. So then we asked Wright Pierce for the documents. They said no, because it's our engineering documents, which I understand. So we hired an engineer to not just review it, but to write specs, to put it out to bid, and to vet the bid, and to do the qualified buyer, and to certify that they are qualified buyer, which is more than just vetting. So it's a multiple functions, and you're making it sound like it's only one function for $84,000. It's a multiple function contract. That's all I'm saying.
Where did that conversation take place, please?
Here, we had the conversation, the engineer explained it to the
on
board.
The
the,
engineer was here.
He was here.
There was only 3 of us at the meeting. And
There was
Sandy,
multiple
myself, and Jimmy.
A lot's being done for the 84.
April
not
13th,
just
23 was
for-
the meeting?
And because we don't want to get stuck with
And
a
I said
product.
no,
Yes.
but there were only the 3 of us here.
Is there a
The
motion?
vote was 210 to approve the outside contractor for 83.5.
And the
Thousand.
very next day, I spoke to somebody in the epoxy business. Do you want names?
Yes.
Danny.
I talked to Danny. Danny was going to get into Primus. Danny was going to become a distributor for
Danny
Primus.
got on the
I
phone.
think
Is-
Okay, okay,
So
okay.
we can throw
We're getting-
names all day long. And
Excuse
we can
me.
throw opinions all
Enough.
day long.
Guy, enough.
Thank you.
We're going too far afield here with the issue. So it's on the agenda for next
Yes.
week, next meeting. And we'll try to have more information on it.
We have one new piece of business, number 15, discussion of a public meeting on Swiss speech to talk about what our solutions are. We can't begin to put a public meeting together until we understand what the solutions are going to be for Swiss speech.
Correct.
We need to understand the process being that we approved with Danny Warren at our last meeting. We need to understand the component of it in order to discuss it with the population.
Most importantly, because we are the decision makers, supposedly, of these things, and we're the public face of them. And we should be knowledgeable enough to answer those questions, or we shouldn't be sitting here.
Maybe we have Mr. Warren back
Oh, indeed.
without, yes, with a little bit more detail than what we got last meeting.
Because I have a number of questions that have come up in the interim. I I was going to stop at the off-site meeting place tomorrow morning, maybe.
Now that it's open again.
Yes, it just opened today, I think, didn't it?
Yesterday, but that's another point. If there's nothing else, our next meeting, even though the agenda says May 11th, our next meeting is May 25.
But there's also a presentation that has to occur Tuesday. Are you people doing the presentation before the selectmen? Be there to back you up. And we also have apparently a meeting in the Finance Committee on the 18th, Thursday. Have you been aware of that? Surprise, surprise.
No, we had not planned per se to present there. We presented at the Finance Committee.
You'll get Sarah up to the mic,
Get
please.
to the mic, yeah, Bob's.
It's always those darn mics.
No better, apologies. We was not aware of that meeting and had not planned to present. If that's something that the Sewer Commission,
Okay,
Like us.
I'm not the Finance Committee anymore. It's their responsibility to contact you.
sure. Yes, our plan was Sewer Commission, Select Board, and then have open public meetings.
Okay, just wait for them. Norma, hopefully, under other circumstances, will in touch with you. But that's up to her. Thank you.
Who will be coming from sewer commissioners to the finance meeting on the 18th? Jimmy was invited as the chair.
And he invited his chair, so the chair will be invited, is invited.
Okay, Bernie.
Now, he is apparently the only one that she has contacted, and I'm wondering if she presumes he will bring these people. I'll check with her.
The finance chair.
Yes.
I was looking for Jimmy's invite because I had it. How long ago it was issued. I'm not coming up with it. But you'll contact the
The chair, yeah.
FinCom
And
chair.
clarify what her understanding is.
That's not coming up with it. So, if you're right, yeah, are we done?
I believe we are. No emergencies, everybody's fine. Any questions? Do you have any concerns? Any issues you'd like us to resolve by having on another warrant or another agenda?
I would just leave it that, if you ever want us back for discussion on any items, we're local, so we can be back to any meetings on a moment's notice. So whether it's the finance, if you need us to come and clarify, we're happy to.
Okay, and vice versa, too. If you have a concern you think needs more extensive explanation, let me know.
Thank you, I will.
I make a motion, we adjourn at 8:46.
Second?
Motion's made and seconded. There being no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? It's a vote. Thank you.